Riley's hands were shaking, and not just from the cold. She'd been watching the cabin for 3 nights now, memorizing the pattern. Lights out at 9. No movement until sunrise. The old wooden storage box on the porch always had something in it. Dried meat, canned goods, sometimes bread wrapped in cloth. Easy pickings for someone desperate enough. And Riley was definitely desperate enough. 3 weeks living in her car until it finally died on some forgotten mountain road. 2 days walking before she found this place. 1 meal in the last 48 hours. The math was simple. She needed food, and that box had food. Morality was a luxury she couldn't afford anymore. The November wind cut through her thin jacket like it wasn't even there. She'd turned 19 2 months ago. Some birthday that was. Aged out of the foster system with $200, a garbage bag of clothes, and a broken-down Honda that lasted exactly 5 weeks. No family, no friends who'd return her calls. No backup plan because nobody ever taught her how to make one. She waited another 20 minutes, making sure. The cabin stayed dark, silent. Whoever lived here was either asleep or gone. Riley crept forward, her worn sneakers barely making a sound on the frozen ground. Her heart hammered so loud she was sure someone would hear it. The storage box wasn't even locked. That almost made her feel worse. This person trusted their neighbors, trusted the world enough to leave food outside without protection. She used to be like that, maybe. Before the 3rd foster home. Before she learned that trust was just another word for stupid. She lifted the lid slowly, wincing at every creak. Inside, she found exactly what she'd hoped for. Jerky in a sealed bag, 3 cans of soup, a container of what looked like homemade cookies. Her stomach twisted with hunger so sharp it hurt. She reached for the jerky first. You planning to take all of it or just what you can carry? Riley spun around so fast she nearly fell off the porch. Her hand automatically went to the pocket knife in her jacket. Not much of a weapon, but it was all she had. The man standing at the bottom of the porch steps was massive. Not fat, just big. Broad shoulders, thick beard. The kind of build that came from actual work, not a gym. He wore a heavy flannel coat and boots that had seen better years. His face was hard to read in the darkness, but he didn't sound angry. That was somehow worse. Anger, she understood. This calm curiosity threw her off. "I don't want trouble," Riley said, hating how her voice shook. "I'm just passing through. At midnight. Stealing food from my porch. I'll pay you back." "With what?" He tilted his head, studying her. "You don't look like you've got much to spare." Riley's grip tightened on the knife in her pocket. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But she'd learned the hard way that running on an empty stomach in the dark, in unfamiliar territory, was a good way to end up hurt or dead. So she stood her ground, chin up, trying to look tougher than she felt. "Look, I'm sorry, okay? I'll put it back. When's the last time you ate?" The question caught her off guard. "What?" "Food. When's the last time you had a real meal?" He said it like he was asking about the weather, casual and matter-of-fact. Riley's jaw clenched. She didn't need pity. Didn't want it. Pity always came with strings attached. That's none of your business. Fair enough. He reached into his coat pocket. Riley's hand tightened on her knife, but he just pulled out a key ring. "Name's Thomas. Most folks call me Bear. And before you run off into the woods with my jerky, you should know there's a storm coming. Temperature's supposed to drop below 0 tonight. I'll manage. I'm sure you will." Bear climbed the porch steps, but he gave her plenty of space, moving slow and predictable, like he was dealing with a scared animal. Riley hated that he was kind of right. "But here's the thing. You can take that food and disappear and I won't stop you. Or you can come inside, eat something hot and leave in the morning with a full pack and better odds of surviving the week." "Why would you do that?" "Do what? Help me." "You don't know me." Bear unlocked the front door but didn't push it open yet. "Don't need to know you to see you're in trouble." "Don't need to know you to do the right thing," Riley wanted to argue. Wanted to throw his charity back in his face and storm off into the night. But her stomach growled loud enough for both of them to hear, and the wind picked up, carrying the promise of that storm he'd mentioned. Pride was another luxury she couldn't afford. "1 meal," she said. "Then I'm gone." "1 meal," Bear agreed. He pushed the door open and gestured for her to go first. Riley hesitated at the threshold. Every foster parent who'd ever said welcome home flashed through her mind. Every caseworker who'd promised this time would be different. Every adult who'd let her down. But the cold was getting worse, and she was so tired of being cold. She walked inside. The cabin was smaller than it looked from outside. 1 main room with a kitchen area, A wood stove burning low, a worn couch, and shelves packed with books. Everything was neat but lived in, practical. Through an open door she could see a bedroom. No TV, no computer that she could spot. It felt like stepping back in time. "Sit," Bear said, pointing to a small table near the kitchen. "You like soup?" "I'm not picky." He actually smiled at that. Good trait to have. Riley sat, but she kept her jacket on and her body angled toward the door. "Escape route. Always know your escape route." Bear moved around the kitchen like this was normal, like he had half-frozen teenagers breaking into his porch every week. He filled a pot with water, added canned vegetables and some kind of meat from the fridge, set it on the propane stove. "There's a bathroom through there if you want to wash up," he said, not looking at her. "Clean towels in the cabinet." Riley didn't move. "Why are you being nice to me?" Bear leaned against the counter, arms crossed. In the light, she could see his face better. Weathered, probably in his 50s, with gray threading through his dark beard. Tired eyes that had seen things. But not mean. That was the part that confused her most. "You remind me of someone," he said finally. "Someone who needed help once and didn't get it in time." "I don't need saving." "Didn't say you did. Said you needed food and a warm place for the night. Those are different things." The soup started to bubble. Bear stirred it, added salt and pepper from memory, not measuring. The smell made Riley's mouth water. She couldn't remember the last time someone had cooked for her. Not heated something up, but actually cooked. He served her a bowl that was more stew than soup, thick with vegetables and chunks of venison. Added 2 slices of bread on the side. Poured her water in a mason jar. Set it all down without ceremony and went back to the kitchen to pour his own bowl. Riley waited until he sat down across from her. Waited for him to eat first. Old habit. Make sure the food's not drugged, not poisoned, not a trick. Bear just ate his soup like he had all the time in the world. Finally, Riley picked up the spoon. The first bite was so good she almost cried. The second bite, she had to force herself to slow down. Don't eat too fast. You'll get sick. You'll throw it up. She'd learned that lesson the hard way. They ate in silence. Bear didn't push conversation, didn't ask questions, just ate his food and occasionally added another log to the wood stove. Riley finished her bowl and the bread, and before she could ask, Bear was refilling it. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You're welcome. I really will pay you back." "Tell you what." Bear set his spoon down. "I've got about 3 cords of wood that need splitting before the heavy snow comes. You any good with an axe?" "Never used one. I'll teach you. You help me for a week, we'll call it even. I'll feed you, give you a place to sleep, and you can move on with some supplies when you're ready." Riley's suspicion flared back up. "That's it? Just chop wood?" "Just chop wood. And maybe help me reorganize the storage shed. It's a mess. What's the catch?" Bear looked at her for a long moment. "No catch. But I'm going to be straight with you. You look like you've been running for a while. I don't know from what, and I'm not going to ask. But out here, winter doesn't care about your story. It'll kill you just the same. So you can stay, work, build up your strength. Or you can leave tomorrow with a full pack. Your choice. Always your choice." Riley stared into her empty bowl. Every logical part of her brain said this was a trap. Said nice men don't exist. Said there's always a price. But she was so tired. Tired of running, tired of being scared, tired of being alone. 1 week, she heard herself say. 1 week, Bear agreed. That night, Riley slept on the couch under a pile of blankets that smelled like wood smoke and cedar. She kept her knife under the pillow and her shoes on, just in case. But for the first time in months, she slept through the night without waking up in a panic. She didn't know it yet. But that was the night everything changed. The night she tried to steal from a mountain man and accidentally found something she'd been searching for her whole life. A place that felt like home. Riley woke up confused. For a few seconds, she couldn't remember where she was. The ceiling was made of wooden beams. The air smelled like coffee and pine. Her body didn't hurt. That last part was what really threw her off. For 3 weeks, she'd been waking up stiff and sore from sleeping in her car or on the ground. This couch was old, but it was soft. Real pillows. Real blankets. Then she remembered. The cabin. The food bare. She sat up fast, heart racing. Through the window, she could see early morning light filtering through massive pine trees. The wood stove was crackling. Someone was moving around in the kitchen. Coffee. Bear's voice came from behind her. Riley turned. He was dressed for work in canvas pants and a thermal shirt. his beard wet like he'd just washed his face. He held out a mug. She took it automatically, wrapping both hands around the warmth. "It's 6:30, he said. "Figure we can get a few hours of work in before it gets too cold." "You still want to earn your keep?" Part of Riley wanted to bolt. Take the coffee, drink it fast, grab whatever she could carry, and disappear before this got complicated. But another part of her, the part that was warm and fed and had slept through the night, that part wanted to stay. "Yeah," she said. "I'm in." "Good, there's oatmeal on the stove. Eat up. You'll need the energy." Bear wasn't kidding about the wood. The pile behind the cabin was huge, all unsplit logs that needed to be turned into stove-sized pieces. He showed her how to use the axe, how to read the grain of the wood, where to place the log on the chopping block, how to swing with her whole body, not just her arms. "Don't fight it," he said, demonstrating. "Let gravity do the work. Your job is just to aim and follow through." Riley's first swing bounced off the log and nearly took out her shin. Her second swing stuck the axe in the wood but didn't split it. By the fifth swing, her arms were burning. By the 20th, she wanted to quit. "Take a break," Bear said. He wasn't even breathing hard, and he'd split about 30 logs while she struggled with 5. "I can keep going." "I know you can, but we're not trying to kill ourselves out here. Pace yourself." They worked until noon. Riley split maybe a tenth of what Bear did, but she split them. Her hands blistered. Her shoulders screamed. But every time she wanted to stop, she'd look at that shrinking pile of unsplit wood and push through one more log. Just one more. Lunch was sandwiches made with venison and cheese. They ate on the porch looking out at the mountains. Riley had never been somewhere so quiet. No traffic, no sirens, no people yelling. Just wind and birds and the distant sound of a stream. "How long have you lived here?" she asked. 8 years. Built most of the cabin myself. "Why?" Bear was quiet for a moment. "Needed to get away from people for a while." Riley understood that. "You ever go into town?" "Once a month for supplies. Propane, things I can't grow or make. There's a small town about 40 minutes down the mountain." He glanced at her. "You worried I'm going to turn you in?" "Are you?" "For what? Being hungry?" "Last I checked, that wasn't a crime. Theft is. You didn't actually steal anything. I stopped you, remember?" Riley picked at her sandwich. "Most people would have called the cops anyway." "I'm not most people," that was becoming obvious. Bear was like nobody Riley had ever met. He didn't ask invasive questions, didn't push for her story, didn't make her feel like she owed him anything beyond the work they'd agreed on. It was strange, unsettling, and kind of nice. The afternoon was more wood-splitting, but Bear also showed her how to maintain the solar panels that powered the cabin's lights and water pump, how to check the propane levels, how to properly bank the wood stove so it stayed warm all night without burning through too much fuel. "You live completely off the grid?" Riley asked, watching him adjust a valve on the propane tank. "Pretty much. Got a generator for emergencies, but I barely use it. Sun and wood handle most everything." "That's actually kind of cool." Bear smiled. "It's peaceful. Everything you need, you provide. Everything you don't need, you don't miss." That night, after another huge meal that Riley couldn't quite believe was real, Bear pulled out a book and settled into a chair by the stove. Riley sat on the couch, her whole body aching in a way that felt earned instead of awful. "You read?" Bear asked, not looking up from his book. "Sometimes. Not much lately." He gestured to the shelves. "Help yourself. Got everything from fiction to wilderness survival guides." Riley got up and scanned the shelves. Lots of nature books. Some classics she recognized from school. A whole section on building and carpentry. And photos. Framed photos scattered between the books. Bear with different groups of people on mountain trails. Bear shaking hands with someone at what looked like a ranger station. And one photo that made Riley stop. A girl, maybe 18 or 19. Dark hair, bright smile, standing on a mountain peak with her arms raised in victory. She looked happy, free, alive. "That's my daughter," Bear said quietly. Her name was Claire. Was, past tense. Riley put the photo back carefully. "I'm sorry. Hiking accident. 8 years ago." Bear's voice was steady, but Riley could hear the old pain underneath. She loved these mountains. "I moved up here after. Couldn't be in the city anymore. Everything reminded me of her. Is that why you helped me? Because I reminded you of her?" Bear looked at Riley then, really looked at her. "A little. She had your same fight in her, that determination to handle everything yourself." He paused. But mostly I helped you because it was the right thing to do. And because I know what it's like to feel alone in the world. Riley didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to process this man who'd lost everything and still had enough kindness left to help a stranger. So she just nodded and picked a book about tracking animals. They read in comfortable silence until Riley's eyes started to close on their own. The next few days fell into a rhythm. Wake up, coffee, breakfast, work, lunch, more work, dinner, reading by the fire, sleep. Riley's hands developed calluses. Her muscles stopped screaming and started just aching. She learned how to swing the axe properly, how to stack wood so it dried evenly, how to identify animal tracks in the snow that had started falling. Bear was a patient teacher. He never made her feel stupid for not knowing things. Never got frustrated when she messed up. Just showed her again, explained it differently, waited while she figured it out. On the fourth day, Riley fixed the latch on the storage shed without being asked. Used tools from Bear's workshop and some old hinges she found. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Bear inspected it, testing the latch a few times. Good work. Those 2 words made Riley feel prouder than any grade she'd ever gotten in school. On the 5th day, a snowstorm hit. Not the light dustings they'd been getting, but a real storm. Bear had predicted it, said he could feel it in his joints. They spent the morning securing everything outside and bringing in extra firewood. By noon, the world outside had turned white. Wind howled around the cabin. Snow piled up against the windows. And Riley realized she wasn't scared. She was inside, warm, with plenty of food and a wood stove that kept everything toasty. If this had happened a week ago, she would have been in serious trouble. We're snowed in for at least a day or 2, Bear said, watching the storm through the window. Hope you don't mind being stuck with me. I've had worse company. That made him laugh. An actual laugh. Riley realized she'd never heard that before. It was a good sound. Warm, like everything else in this cabin. They spent the storm day doing inside work. Bear taught her how to patch clothes, really patch them, not just slap duct tape on holes. How to sharpen knives properly. How to make bread from scratch. Riley had never baked anything in her life. Never had a kitchen she could use freely. But Bear let her measure and mix and knead, only stepping in when she got stuck. When the bread came out of the oven, crispy and golden and smelling incredible, Riley felt something crack open in her chest. Something she'd kept locked down for years. I did that, she said, staring at the bread. You did, Bear agreed. I actually made something. Bear must have heard what she wasn't saying. All the years of being told she'd never amount to anything, never create anything, never be anything but a burden and a problem. Because he put his hand on her shoulder just for a moment and said, You can make a lot more than bread, kid. You just need the chance. That night, with the storm still raging outside, Riley finally asked the question that had been building. What happens after the week? Bear was stirring soup on the stove. What do you want to happen? I don't know. I don't have anywhere to go, no money, no plan. Those things can be figured out. How? Bear turned to face her. You could stay longer. Through the winter if you want. There's plenty of work. I could use the help. And come spring, the town has jobs. Doris, who runs the diner, is always looking for good people. You could earn real money, save up, figure out your next move. You'd let me stay? Just like that? It's not charity, Riley. You work hard. You don't complain. You're learning fast. Honestly, you'd be doing me a favor. This place is a lot for one person. Riley's throat tightened. What if I screw it up? What if I steal from you or break something important or... Then we'll deal with it. But I don't think you will. Bear ladled soup into bowls. I think you're someone who's had a lot of people give up on her. I think you're waiting for me to do the same. But I'm not going anywhere, and neither is this cabin. So if you want to stay, you can stay. And if you want to leave come spring, I'll help you get wherever you're going. No strings, no conditions, just an option. Riley stared at her soup. At this man who barely knew her offering something nobody ever had. A real choice. A real chance. Not temporary, not conditional, just real. Okay, she whispered, okay? Okay, I'll stay. Through winter. If you're sure? I'm sure. They ate dinner and Riley felt something she hadn't felt in years. Maybe ever. She felt safe. Not just physically safe, but safe in a deeper way. Like she could breathe fully for the first time. That night the storm cleared. Riley went outside to help Bear clear snow from the solar panels and she looked up at the sky. Stars everywhere, more than she'd ever seen. The air was so cold it hurt to breathe, but it was clean, sharp, real, beautiful, isn't it? Bear said beside her. Yeah, Riley said. It really is. She didn't tell him that she wasn't just talking about the stars, that she was talking about this whole strange situation. This cabin, this life, this unexpected second chance that started with a failed theft and turned into something she didn't have words for yet. But she thought maybe Bear understood anyway, because when they went back inside, he made hot chocolate and taught her how to play chess, and for the first time in her life, Riley felt like she might actually have a home. 2 months passed faster than Riley thought possible. January arrived with deep snow and temperatures that made her old life seem like a distant nightmare. She'd stopped thinking about leaving, stopped looking at the door like an escape route. This cabin in the mountains had become something she'd never had before, something she was almost afraid to name. Her hands were different now, strong, calloused, capable. She could split a cord of wood in a morning, fix a broken hinge, track a deer through fresh snow. Bear had taught her all of it with endless patience. He never made her feel like a charity case, just a partner, someone pulling their weight. But everything changed the day they had to go to town for supplies. Riley hadn't left the mountain since she'd arrived. Part of her had been avoiding it, dreading the moment she'd have to interact with other people again. What would they think? What would they ask? Bear must have sensed her anxiety because he didn't push. Not until the propane got low and the food stores needed restocking. We'll leave at 8, Bear said over breakfast. Town's about 45 minutes. We'll grab what we need and be back before dark. Riley's stomach twisted. Do I have to go? No, but Doris asked about you. She's got a part-time job opening up in March when the season picks up. Might be good to meet her. No pressure, a job. Real money. The kind of thing normal people had. The kind of thing Riley never thought she'd have again. Okay, she said. I'll come. Bear's truck was old but reliable, with chains on the tires for the icy roads. They drove down the mountain in comfortable silence. Riley watching the landscape change from wild forest to scattered houses to actual buildings. The town was small, maybe 3,000 people with one main street and the kind of places that had been there forever. Hardware store, post office, a diner with a hand-painted sign that said Doris's Place. People stared when they walked down the street. Not hostile, just curious. Bear got a lot of nods and waves. A few people called out greetings. Riley stayed close to him, hyper-aware of her worn clothes and the way she probably looked like exactly what she was. A stray he'd taken in. Bear! A woman's voice rang out from the diner entrance. Get in here before you freeze to death. The woman was maybe 60, with gray hair pulled back in a bun and the kind of face that smiled a lot. She grabbed Bear in a hug that lifted him off his feet, which was impressive considering his size. Doris, Bear said, laughing. You're going to crack my ribs. Should have called ahead. I'd have made your favorite pie. Doris's eyes landed on Riley. And this must be the girl you told me about. Riley felt her cheeks heat up. You talked about me? Course he did. Said you've been helping him with the place, that you're a hard worker. Doris stuck out her hand. I'm Doris. I run this diner, have for 32 years. And I hear you might be interested in some work come spring. Riley shook her hand, surprised by the firm grip. Maybe, if you're really hiring. Always hiring good people. Why don't you two come in, have some lunch? On the house. We can talk details. The diner was warm and busy, smelling like coffee and fried food. Doris sat them in a booth and brought out sandwiches and soup without asking what they wanted. Riley ate slowly, listening to Doris and Bear catch up. Apparently, they'd known each other for years. Doris had helped Bear when he first moved to the mountains, given him advice, connected him with people who could help build the cabin. He was a mess back then, Doris said, winking at Riley. Lost his daughter and couldn't function, but he pulled himself together. Made something good out of all that pain. Bear shifted uncomfortably. Doris, what? It's true. She turned to Riley. So, you interested in waitressing? It's not glamorous. Long hours, difficult customers sometimes. But it pays decent, and tips can be good when the tourists come through in summer. Riley set down her spoon. I've never waitressed before. You ever worked at all? Some, nothing official. Under the table stuff. Doris didn't look surprised or judgmental, just nodded. Can you show up on time? Yes. Can you be polite to people even when they're being jerks? I can try. Can you carry heavy plates without dropping them? I think so. Then you're hired. Start in March, 3 days a week. We'll train you on everything else. Doris slid a piece of paper across the table with her phone number. Call me a week before. We'll set up your schedule. Riley stared at the paper. That's it? You're not going to do a background check or ask for references. Bear's reference is good enough for me. And honey, we all got backgrounds. What matters is what you do going forward. Something tight in Riley's chest loosened. She folded the paper carefully and put it in her pocket. Thank you. Thank me by showing up and working hard. Now eat your soup before it gets cold. After lunch, they hit the hardware store and the grocery. Bear introduced Riley to a few more people. The hardware store owner, old Mr. Chen, who said Bear had the best setup on the mountain. A woman named Linda, who ran the post office and made. Bear promised to come to her grandson's graduation in June. Everyone was friendly, welcoming. Like Riley being with Bear made her automatically okay. On the drive back, Riley was quiet, processing everything. You all right? Bear asked. People like you? Some people. No, I mean really like you. They respect you, trust you. Riley looked out the window at the passing trees. I've never had that. People looking at me and seeing something good. They see it because it's there. You don't know what I was like before, the stuff I did to survive. Bear was quiet for a moment. You're not the only person who's done things they're not proud of. Difference is you're trying to do better. That counts for something. Riley wanted to believe him. Some days she did. Other days she waited for the other shoe to drop. For Bear to realize she wasn't worth the trouble. For the past to come crashing back. That crash came 3 days later. Riley was sorting through the mail Bear had picked up when she found a letter addressed to her. Forwarded from her last known address, the group home she'd aged out of. The handwriting on the envelope was familiar. Too familiar. Her hand shook as she opened it. The letter was from Jade, her foster sister from 2 homes ago, the only person from her old life who'd ever felt like real family. Jade was 17 now, still in the system, and from the sound of the letter, things were bad. Really bad. Got placed with this guy Derek, Jade had written in her messy handwriting. He seemed nice at first, but he's not. He's got me doing things, Riley, bad things. I tried to tell my caseworker, but she says I'm causing drama. I don't know what to do. I remembered you said if I ever needed help to reach out. I know you probably got your own problems, but I'm scared. I'm in Seattle at this address. If you can help, please help. If you can't, I understand. Love you, Jay. Riley read the letter 3 times. Her chest felt too tight. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Jade. Sweet, funny Jade who used to sneak cookies for them to share. Who believed Riley when nobody else did. Who cried when Riley aged out because it meant they'd be separated. Riley? Bear's voice came from behind her. What's wrong? She handed him the letter without speaking. Watched his face darken as he read. Do you know this girl? She's my sister. Not biological, but she's my sister. We were in a home together for 2 years. Riley's voice cracked. Bear, if she's asking for help, things must be really bad. Jade's tough. She doesn't ask for anything. Bear handed the letter back. What do you want to do? I want to help her, but I don't know how. I don't have money for a bus ticket. I don't have any way to get her out of there safely. I don't even know if she's still at that address. Riley felt tears burning behind her eyes. I feel so useless. Bear sat down at the table, his expression serious. Let me ask you something. If you go to Seattle, can you get her out? Do you know how to handle a situation like this? I don't know, maybe? I could try to convince her to leave, take her somewhere safe. And if this Derek person doesn't want to let her go? If he's dangerous? Riley's stomach dropped. I didn't think about that, I figured. Bear pulled out a notepad and started writing. Okay, here's what we're going to do. First, you're going to call this number. He wrote down a contact. It's a social worker I know who actually gives a damn. Tell her about Jade. She'll know how to navigate the system, who to talk to. What if that's not enough? Then we go to Plan B. I'll give you money for a bus ticket. I'll teach you basic self-defense. We'll come up with a strategy for getting Jade out safely. But Riley, you need to understand something. He looked at her hard. Going back to your old whirler. D, it's risky. You've built something here. If you go back, you might get pulled into situations you can't control. She's my sister. I know, and I respect that. I'm not saying don't help. I'm saying be smart about it. Plan it out. Don't just run in blind. Riley nodded slowly. Bear was right. Rushing to Seattle without a plan wouldn't help Jade. It might make things worse. But sitting here doing nothing felt impossible. They spent the next week preparing. Bear taught her self-defense basics. How to break a grip, where to strike if she had to, how to read a dangerous situation and when to run. He made her practice until the moves were automatic. Not perfect, but better than nothing. The social worker, Ms. Rodriguez, made some calls, found out Jade was still at the address, filed a report. But she was honest with Riley. The system's overwhelmed. Unless she's in immediate danger, they won't move fast. You might be her best option. So they made a plan. Riley would take the bus to Seattle. She'd have Bear's old satellite phone. She'd check in every day. She'd assess the situation, talk to Jade, and if things were as bad as they sounded, she'd get Jade out. Then they'd come back to Montana together. You think she'll want to come here? Riley asked the night before she left. I think she'll want to be somewhere safe. Whether that's here or somewhere else, we'll figure it out. Riley packed light. A backpack with clothes, money Bear had given her, the satellite phone, and a letter she'd written to Jade in case things went wrong. Bear drove her to the bus station early on a Monday morning. Before she got on the bus, he grabbed her shoulder. You call me every day, morning and night. If you miss even one call, I'm coming after you. Understand? I understand. And Riley, you've built a good life here. Don't forget that. Don't let anyone make you think you don't deserve it. Riley hugged him then. Quick and hard. Thank you. For everything. Bring your sister home safe. The bus ride took 26 hours. Riley barely slept. She kept thinking about Jade, about all the ways this could go wrong, about the life she was leaving behind. The cabin felt a million miles away. The peace and safety she'd found felt fragile, like it might disappear if she wasn't there to hold on to it. Seattle was overwhelming. Too many people. Too much noise. Everything moved too fast. Riley found her way to the address from Jade's letter using a city map she bought at a gas station. The apartment building was run down, in a neighborhood that felt dangerous even in daylight. She stood outside for 10 minutes, gathering her courage. Then she climbed the stairs and knocked on apartment 3C. A man answered, early 20s with dead eyes and a smile that didn't reach them. Yeah, I'm looking for Jade. Who's asking? Her sister, Riley. The man's smile widened.
Jade never mentioned a sister.
You a cop? Do I look like a cop? He studied her for a long moment. Then he stepped back and called over his shoulder. Jade, you got a visitor. Jade appeared from a back room and Riley's heart broke. She was too thin, had circles under her eyes, bruises on her arms. But when she saw Riley, her whole face lit up. Riley. They grabbed each other in the doorway, holding on like they might drown if they let go. I got your letter, Riley whispered. I'm here to take you home. But as she said it, looking at the man watching them with calculating eyes, Riley realized getting out might be harder than getting in. This was just the beginning. Derek didn't leave them alone. He stayed in the living room while Riley and Jade talked in hushed voices in the tiny kitchen. The apartment smelled like stale cigarettes and something chemical Riley didn't want to identify. Every instinct she'd developed on the streets was screaming danger. How bad is it? Riley asked quietly. Jade's eyes filled with tears. Really bad? He's got me working corners, Riley. Says I owe him for rent and food, and there's other guys here sometimes. They do things. Bad things, Riley's jaw clenched. We're leaving. Right now. I can't just leave. Derek will what? Jade, look at me. Whatever he said he'll do, he's lying. You don't owe him anything. You're 17. You're a minor. This is illegal on about 10 different levels. But my caseworker, screw your caseworker. I've got a place in Montana. It's safe. There's a man there named Bear who'll help us. We just need to get you out of this apartment. Jade wiped her eyes. You really came all the way from Montana? Of course I did. You're my sister. That word sister seemed to strengthen something in Jade. She stood up straighter, nodded. Okay, but we have to be smart. Derek has a gun. Riley's blood went cold. Bear had taught her self-defense, but he'd also taught her when to fight and when to run. This was definitely a running situation. Do you have anything you need to grab? Just my bag. It's in the bedroom. Get it. Fast. We're walking out that door in 2 minutes. Jade disappeared into the bedroom. Riley went back to the living room where Derek was sprawling on a ratty couch, watching some violent video on his phone. She forced herself to stay calm, to use the skills Bear had taught her. Read the situation. Find the exits. Stay ready. So you're the famous Riley, Derek said without looking up. Jade talked about you sometimes. Said you were tough. I am, that's good. Tough girls do better in this city. Maybe you want to stick around? I could use someone with your energy. Riley's skin crawled. I'm just here to visit. Sure you are. Derek finally looked at her. But here's the thing. Jade's got debts. Can't just walk away from debts. She doesn't owe you anything. She's a kid. She's old enough to work, old enough to pay her way. Derek stood up and Riley saw the outline of something in his waistband. The gun Jade mentioned. You want to take her? Fine, but it'll cost you. Riley thought fast. She had about $300 in her backpack. Money Bear had given her. It was supposed to last the whole trip, but if it got Jade out safely, it was worth it. How much? Derek's eyes lit up with greed. 500. I've got 300. Cash. Right now. Not enough. It's what I have. Take it or I'm calling the police, Derek laughed. Go ahead, call them. Tell them about the underage girl working for me. See who they arrest first. Spoiler alert, it won't be me. He was right and he knew it. The system didn't protect girls like Jade. Riley had seen it before. Victims got treated like criminals. But she wasn't backing down. 300 now, Riley said. Or I walk out with Jade and you get nothing. Plus I tell every social worker in the city what's happening here. Your operation's done. Derek's expression hardened. For a second, Riley thought he was going to reach for the gun. Her muscles tensed, ready to run or fight or whatever she had to do. Then Jade came out of the bedroom with a small duffel bag. I'm ready, Jade said, her voice shaking but determined. Derek looked between them. This is a mistake, probably, Riley said. But it's our mistake to make. She pulled out the money, counted out $300, and tossed it on the couch. We're leaving now. You better not come back. We won't. Riley grabbed Jade's hand and walked to the door, forced herself to move normally. Not too fast, not running. Just two girls leaving an apartment. Her heart was hammering so hard she could barely breathe. They made it down the stairs, out to the street, around the corner, 2 blocks away before Riley let herself believe they'd actually done it. We need to keep moving, Riley said. Get far away from here. They walked for an hour, taking random turns, making sure nobody was following. Riley's mind raced. They needed somewhere safe to stay for the night. The bus back to Montana didn't leave until tomorrow morning. She had about $40 left. Not enough for a hotel. She found a payphone and called the satellite phone number Bear had given her. He answered on the first ring. Riley? Just hearing his voice made her feel safer. I got her. We're out, but we need somewhere to stay tonight and I'm almost out of money. Where are you? Riley read him the street signs. Okay, there's a church 2 blocks north of you, St. Michael's. Ask for Father Rodriguez. Tell him Bear sent you. He'll help. You know a priest in Seattle? I know a lot of people. Get somewhere safe. Call me when you're settled. Father Rodriguez was a short man with kind eyes and gray hair. He listened to their story without judgment and set them up in a small room in the church's community center. Brought them sandwiches and hot chocolate. Told them they were safe here and nobody was getting in without his permission. That night, Riley and Jade lay on cots in the quiet room. For the first time in hours, Riley let herself relax. I can't believe you came, Jade said in the darkness. I told you I would, if you ever needed me. I thought you'd forget about me. Never, your family. Jade was quiet for a moment. What's Montana like? Cold, quiet, beautiful. There's this cabin on a mountain. The man who lives there, Bear, he's good. Really good. He helped me when I had nothing. Taught me how to work, how to survive. Gave me a second chance. You think he'd let me stay too? I know he would. He told me to bring you home safe. Home? Jade repeated softly. I've never really had one of those. Me neither. But I think maybe we do now. The next morning, Father Rodriguez drove them to the bus station, gave Riley another $100 and made her promise to call when they arrived safely. The bus ride back was long but different. Riley wasn't alone anymore. Jade slept most of the way, her head on Riley's shoulder, finally looking peaceful. Riley watched the landscape change from city to forest to mountains, watched the world get quieter and wilder, and she realized something. She'd left Montana scared that going back to her old life would trap her, but she'd done the opposite. She'd used everything Bear taught her to save someone she loved. She'd been brave and smart and strong. She wasn't the same girl who'd tried to steal food from a porch 3 months ago. She'd become someone who could protect people, someone who could make good choices, someone who deserved the home she'd found. Bear was waiting at the bus station. Riley saw him before he saw them, standing by his truck looking worried. When he spotted her, his whole face relaxed. "You made it," he said. "We made it." Riley gestured to Jade. "Bear, this is Jade. Jade, this is Bear." Bear studied Jade the same way he'd studied Riley that first night, seeing the fear, the defensive posture, the worn-down exhaustion of someone who'd been through too much. His expression softened. "Welcome," he said simply. "Let's get you home." The drive up the mountain was quiet. Jade stared out the window, taking in the towering trees and snow-covered peaks. Riley watched her face, seeing the same wonder she'd felt her first time seeing this place. When they pulled up to the cabin, Jade's eyes went wide. "You live here?" "We live here," Riley corrected. "If you want to stay." Over the next few days, Bear worked his quiet magic on Jade the same way he had on Riley. He didn't push, didn't ask invasive questions, just gave her space, fed her good food, and let her settle in at her own pace. He set up a second cot in what used to be his daughter's room, showed Jade how to use the wood stove, how to help with daily chores, how to exist in this peaceful, structured life. Riley watched Jade slowly come back to herself. The fear in her eyes faded. Her shoulders relaxed. She started smiling again. Real smiles, not the fake ones she used in Seattle. One evening, about a week after they'd arrived, the three of them sat around the fire. Bear was teaching Jade how to whittle. Riley was sketching in a notebook Bear had given her, something she'd started doing to pass the long winter evenings. "Can I ask you something?" Jade said to Bear. "Sure. Why are you helping us?" "Like, really? What do you get out of this?" Bear was quiet for a moment, focusing on the piece of wood in his hands. "I lost my daughter 8 years ago. Hiking accident. After she died, I was angry. At the world, at God, at myself. I came up here to hide from all that pain." He paused, turning the wood over. Then Riley showed up, and I realized something. I couldn't bring my daughter back, but I could help someone else's daughter. I could take all that love I still had with nowhere to put it and give it to someone who needed it. "So we're like your charity project?" Jade asked, not meanly, just trying to understand. "No, your family. There's a difference. Charity is something you do because you should. Family is something you choose because you want to." Bear looked at both of them. "I choose you two, if you'll have me." Riley felt tears in her eyes. Jade wiped at her face with her sleeve. "I choose you too," Riley said. "Me three," Jade added, her voice breaking. Bear smiled. "Good. Now let me show you how to make a spoon out of this wood. Useful skill." That night, after Jade had gone to bed, Riley and Bear sat on the porch. The stars were incredible, the air crisp and clean. "Thank you," Riley said, "for trusting me to go get her. For letting her stay. Thank you for coming back. Part of me worried you wouldn't. This is home." "Of course I came back," Bear nodded. "Your job at the diner starts next month. Think Jade might want to go to school?" "Maybe. She's smart. She just never had the support to finish. We'll figure it out, one step at a time." Riley looked at the mountains, at the cabin behind them, at the life they were building. It wasn't perfect. They all had scars and bad days and moments when the past crept back in. But they had each other. They had this place. They had a second chance that most people never got. "Hey, Bear." "Yes, I tried to steal from you. That first night, I was planning to take everything I could carry and run. I know. You knew, of course. But you know what? I'm glad you tried, because if you hadn't, we never would have met. And I'd still be up here alone, wasting all this space and all this life on being sad." Riley smiled. "So you're saying I did you a favor by trying to rob you?" "I'm saying sometimes the best things come from the worst circumstances. Sometimes the family you need shows up trying to steal your jerky." They both laughed. Then they sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars, knowing that tomorrow would bring work and challenges and the slow, steady process of healing. But for tonight, they were home. All of them. Together. And that was enough. Derek didn't leave them alone. He stayed in the living room while Riley and Jade talked in hushed voices in the tiny kitchen. The apartment smelled like stale cigarettes and something chemical Riley didn't want to identify. Every instinct she'd developed on the streets was screaming danger. "How bad is it?" Riley asked quietly. Jade's eyes filled with tears. "Really bad. He's got me working corners, Riley. Says I owe him for rent and food. And there's other guys here sometimes. They do things. Bad things, Riley's jaw clenched. We're leaving. Right now, I can't just leave. Derek will what? Jade, look at me. Whatever he said he'll do, he's lying. You don't owe him anything. You're 17. You're a minor. This is illegal on about 10 different levels, but my caseworker, screw your caseworker. I've got a place in Montana. It's safe. There's a man there named Bear who'll help us. We just need to get you out of this apartment. Jade wiped her eyes. You really came all the way from Montana? Of course I did. You're my sister. That word sister seemed to strengthen something in Jade. She stood up straighter, nodded. Okay. But we have to be smart. Derek has a gun. Riley's blood went cold. Bear had taught her self-defense, but he'd also taught her when to fight and when to run. This was definitely a running situation. Do you have anything you need to grab? Just my bag. It's in the bedroom. Get it fast. We're walking out that door in 2 minutes. Jade disappeared into the bedroom. Riley went back to the living room where Derek was sprawling on a ratty couch, watching some violent video on his phone. She forced herself to stay calm, to use the skills Bear had taught her. Read the situation. Find the exits. Stay ready. So you're the famous Riley, Derek said without looking up. Jade talked about you sometimes. Said you were tough. I am. That's good. Tough girls do better in this city. Maybe you want to stick around. I could use someone with your energy. Riley's skin crawled. I'm just here to visit. Sure you are. Derek finally looked at her. But here's the thing. Jade's got debts. Can't just walk away from debts. She doesn't owe you anything. She's a kid. She's old enough to work. Old enough to pay her way. Derek stood up and Riley saw the outline of something in his waistband. The gun Jade mentioned. You want to take her? Fine, but it'll cost you, Riley thought fast. She had about $300 in her backpack. Money Bear had given her. It was supposed to last the whole trip, but if it got Jade out safely, it was worth it. How much? Derek's eyes lit up with greed. 500. I've got 300 cash right now. Not enough. It's what I have. Take it or I'm calling the police. Derek laughed. Go ahead, call them. Tell them about the underage girl working for me. See who they arrest first. Spoiler alert, it won't be me. He was right, and he knew it. The system didn't protect girls like Jade. Riley had seen it before. Victims got treated like criminals. But she wasn't backing down. 300 now, Riley said. Or I walk out with Jade and you get nothing. Plus, I tell every social worker in the city what's happening here. Your operation's done. Derek's expression hardened. For a second, Riley thought he was going to reach for the gun. Her muscles tensed, ready to run or fight or whatever she had to do. Then Jade came out of the bedroom with a small duffel bag. I'm ready, Jade said, her voice shaking but determined. Derek looked between them. This is a mistake. Probably, Riley said. But it's our mistake to make. She pulled out the money, counted out $300, and tossed it on the couch. We're leaving now. You better not come back. We won't. Riley grabbed Jade's hand and walked to the door. Forced herself to move normally. Not too fast. Not running. Just two girls leaving an apartment. Her heart was hammering so hard she could barely breathe. They made it down the stairs. Out to the street. Around the corner. 2 blocks away before Riley let herself believe they'd actually done it. We need to keep moving, Riley said. Get far away from here. They walked for an hour, taking random turns, making sure nobody was following. Riley's mind raced. They needed somewhere safe to stay for the night. The bus back to Montana didn't leave until tomorrow morning. She had about $40 left. Not enough for a hotel. She found a payphone and called the satellite phone number Bear had given her. He answered on the first ring. Riley? Just hearing his voice made her feel safer. I got her. We're out, but we need somewhere to stay tonight and I'm almost out of money. Where are you? Riley read him the street signs. Okay. There's a church 2 blocks north of you, St. Michael's. Ask for Father Rodriguez. Tell him Bear sent you. He'll help. You know a priest in Seattle? I know a lot of people. Get somewhere safe. Call me when you're settled. Father Rodriguez was a short man with kind eyes and gray hair. He listened to their story without judgment and set them up in a small room in the church's community center. Brought them sandwiches and hot chocolate. Told them they were safe.